all of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But it's one of those things that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
Just when we thought the drama around Rachel Zegler and her role as Snow White was cooling off, with her busy lighting up Broadway in Romeo and Juliet and not giving many interviews, things took a sharp turn. Recently, she sat down with Variety, and what she said has stirred up quite the storm. Not just once, but twice. During the interview, Rachel touched on the harsh criticisms she's faced. She opened up about seeing women get criticized all her life, suggesting that these harsh judgments are why she's been targeted over her Snow White role. Now, as you can imagine, that didn't sit well with a lot of people. The internet lit up with folks calling her out, claiming she was playing the victim card. But wait, there's more to the drama. The second part of the controversy erupted when Rachel reflected on the backlash. She mentioned, "Honestly, it made me sad that it was taken in such a way because I believe women can do anything. And yes, they can do everything." Now, this might sound inspiring, but here's where it gets tricky. People quickly dug up an old interview where Rachel seemed to say that the new Snow White wasn't about love at all.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally...
This contradiction has many people wondering if maybe, just maybe, the recent reshoots of the movie might have added some romantic elements back into the story. More on that later, but let's break down her first point. Rachel is saying that the backlash against her is basically because she's a young woman in a huge role, and people just can't handle that. I'm here to sift through the noise and stick to the facts. If we take her statement at face value, it seems she believes there's a pattern where whenever a young woman steps into a big role, the knives come out. Now, let's step back and take a look at some of the previous Disney live-action remakes, which have almost always focused on female leads. This gives us a solid basis to compare Rachel Zegler's situation. First up, let's go back to 2015 when Disney released their live-action Cinderella. Interestingly, there wasn't any major drama or controversy surrounding the film. The lead actress had a pretty smooth experience throughout the entire process, from filming to promoting the movie. Everything seemed to go off without a hitch. Then we had Cinderella again, but this time it was the 2021 version, starring Camila Cabello.
Were you everywhere?
And you seriously thought you could be part of this program?
Now, while this wasn't a Disney film, it's still worth noting because just like Rachel, Camila is of Hispanic descent. You might expect some backlash given how things have played out with Rachel, but surprisingly, Camila didn't face anywhere near the kind of harsh criticism Rachel's been getting. If anything, the most backlash for that movie landed on James Corden. Yes, James Corden, not the leading lady. Next, we have the 2019 live-action Beauty and the Beast starring Emma Watson. Once again, Emma didn't face the kind of intense personal attacks that Rachel has had to deal with. Sure, there were some criticisms here and there, but it was nothing compared to the storm we're seeing now with Snow White. But then we come to the Little Mermaid in 2023, and this is where things get interesting.
He went to the above world.
A man was drowning. I had to save him.
This film was also extremely divisive. Halle Bailey, who took on the role of Ariel, definitely faced her fair share of backlash. However, even then, the criticism was mostly aimed at the casting choice or the movie itself. It didn't seem to get as personal as what Rachel had been going through. In fact, one of the most vocal critics online, The Critical Drinker, had some strong opinions about Rachel Zegler's Snow White role. He even compared it to The Little Mermaid, but pointed out how different the two situations are. And when you step back and think about it, these two actresses aren't alike in the way the backlash has hit them. So, is there something deeper going on here? Is Rachel being treated unfairly, or is it the nature of her comments that have caused this particular firestorm? Let's talk about Halle Bailey and her journey as Ariel in The Little Mermaid. She definitely faced some criticism, mostly because she was cast in a role that traditionally went to a white character. Now, there's a whole discussion to be had about the merits of race-swapping characters, but the key point here is that most of the backlash was focused on the decision to cast her, not on Halle as an individual. Why is that? Simply put, she didn't give people much reason to dislike her. Halle came across as charming and likable in her interviews and press appearances. Just another talented actress excited about her big break. She steered clear of controversy, didn't hit back at critics, didn't slam the original movie for its lack of diversity, and certainly didn't throw shade at her co-stars. This approach seemed to work well for her, allowing her to sidestep much of the controversy and garnering her a lot of sympathy. Now let's consider Rachel Zegler's situation. She started out much like Halle, but somewhere along the way, things took a different turn.
You tidy up the room. You clean those cobwebs. And he'll use the broom.
Looking at the reactions to other female leads and then at Rachel, it seems the issue might not be about gender attacks, but rather about her personal comments. Not to say there aren't some out there who criticize her just because she's a woman. Those people exist, but it doesn't seem to be the majority or the main driver of the backlash. What sets Rachel apart is her willingness to express strong opinions, which, while totally within her rights, naturally polarizes audiences. When you stand firm on certain views, you're bound to split the crowd. Some will back you up and others will oppose you. It appears that those who disagree with Rachel have been particularly vocal, but it all seems to stem from her own strong stances. She's fully entitled to her opinions, as anyone in the US is, but having such opinions often means facing disagreement, which can escalate into the kind of backlash we're seeing now. So, what we're seeing with Rachel might be a classic case of strong opinions clashing with public perceptions, creating a storm of controversy. It's clear that the conversation around Rachel Zegler involves more than just her acting. It's about how an actress navigates her role both on and off the screen in today's hyper-connected, opinion-driven world. So, when you look at everything that's been happening, it's pretty clear that saying Rachel Zegler is only being criticized because she's a woman doesn't fully explain the situation. The real issue seems to lie more in her strong, outspoken opinions. And even beyond Disney movies, there are plenty of examples of young, talented female actors who are being celebrated and supported by the public. Just look at Jenna Ortega, Anya Taylor-Joy, Zendaya, or Sydney Sweeney. These women are thriving, and the public loves them. This shows that there are many young actresses who are being lifted up, not torn down. So, while there are always going to be some people out there who criticize someone based on gender, that doesn't seem to be the majority of what's happening here with Rachel. The situation is way too complex to be boiled down to a simple explanation like that. Life is full of shades of gray, and it's never as simple as it looks. Blanket statements rarely capture the full picture. In the end, movies are made to entertain, and it's the audience who ultimately decides if they like what they see. Rachel Zegler, like everyone else, is entitled to her opinions, and the audience is free to share theirs too, even if they don't always agree. As Denzel Washington said,
you know, race relationships have to do with race relationships. You're white or whatever you are, I'm black or whatever I am. We're standing here talking now. That's how we get things done. You can't legislate love. The President of the United States can't legislate us into liking each other. We have to step forward and ask questions about each other and engage. There's no law that says, oh, because I'm president, you all got to get along. Listen, we live in America, and in America we have the freedom to express ourselves. We shouldn't take that for granted. So whatever the movements are, whether you agree with them or don't, they have the right to express themselves. So that's one of the great things about being in this country, that you do have the right to protest.